We have tons of NHL news and rumors to take a look at tonight, one day before the NHL draft. Could Noah Dobson be on his way to the Montreal Canadiens? There's some rumors that are really picking up steam, suggesting that the Islanders and the Habs may be having some intense and advanced conversations. We'll discuss that, plus other teams also in the mix for Dobson. Plus, could a player like Jean-Gabriel Pageau be involved with that trade as well, or getting another deal onto another club like Minnesota? Plus, we have the updates around Columbus, Vancouver, the Buffalo Sabres, the Toronto Maple Leafs, as well as some big UFA rumors as well, including Mitch Marner. Could a team like Dallas enter the mix and stand a chance to land the top UFA in today's class? Plus, we have some signings as well, including Jamie Benn and Dallas. We had some big trades in the past 12 to 24 hours, including Peterka, Freddie Gaudreau, and a couple of smaller deals with the Columbus Blue Jackets. We have Jay Woodcroft back to work in the NHL, and some huge details on the new CBA expected to be announced here in a few days. Plus, Marc-Edouard Vlasic has been bought out in San Jose. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, and you can tell by the opener, we have a lot to go over. There's an extremely busy news cycle in the NHL, one day before the NHL draft. We're going to kick things off first with, hopefully, we're getting a big announcement here, maybe tomorrow before the draft, if not, probably over the weekend, about hopefully a new ratified CBA. The contract's expected to be 4 years in length. Of course, we're still 1 year out from the current CBA expiring, so that would take us from 2026 to 2030. A lot of the key details that are rumored to be in this new deal include revenue sharing between the owners and the players remaining at 50-50. There's not expected to be any changes in that regards. We are going to be getting the World Cup of Hockey coming back. The NHL has already put out some bids, if you will, open the bidding for host cities in order to want to take on this project. But the 2028 World Cup of Hockey will return with an 8-team tournament, so we will have best on best hockey every 2 years, which is phenomenal. The players are expected to be getting some enhanced benefits for their benefit plan. We are expecting the NHL season to possibly increase from 82 to 84 games. That's an extra 2 regular season games. But as a kind of give back, or if you will, the regular season will start earlier, and we will see the preseason shrunk down and some of the exhibition games eliminated. So in that case, teams who likely now play 6 or 7 preseason games would do a maximum of 4, and we'd see the regular season start most likely in the final week of September instead of the first week or so into October. So it really wouldn't push things out any further at all, and there would be an extra 2 regular season games on the schedule. That's expected to be in there. Contract length is expected to change as well, as we had discussed in the rumor mill before. Right now, if you extend with your existing club, you can go on an 8-year max deal. That's expected to drop from 8 down to 7. And right now, if you change teams as a free agent, you can sign a maximum of a 7-year deal, and that's expected to drop from 7 down to 6. We also are expecting to get some form of a LTIR loophole closure, you could call it. So a playoff salary cap of some sort. We don't know exactly how that's going to work, but there is going to be something implemented so that teams can't, have like a $9 million player go on LTIR, add another $9 million player to your roster, and then have them both play in the playoffs and be way over the cap. You can still use LTIR, you can still add to your roster, but there will be some kind of mechanism, which we don't know the details exactly on yet, that when teams enter the playoffs, that there still will be a form of a cap so that they can't just be way over, like we've seen not only a lot of the teams, but a lot of the Stanley Cup winning teams in the last half dozen or so years, but it's even been going on even longer than that, but it's been more predominant here as of late. It's expected as well, teams are going to be allowed to have a full-time e-bug, so emergency backup goaltender as well. We also are hearing that their teams are no longer going to be able to mandate a dress code. So the players have argued for that to be included, so I guess they can dress however they want. No more deferred salary as well, which has not really been a common thing. There's only been a few contracts done that way, but I think it's been something that's been kind of brought back up here by agents more recently and certainly used a few times. That's going to be Benn moving forward. There's also going to be a new cap on signing bonuses. Right now, that the salary and the signing bonus structure is that you have to have a salary at least equal to league minimum salary per season, which obviously is only $775. If a guy's making $10 million, that's a pretty low percentage. So it's going to be capped now at 60%. So if a player's making a $10 million contract, the maximum signing bonus would be 6, the salary would be 4. That will also have a big impact on contracts' ability to be bought out down the road. Because right now there's some contracts that are pretty ironclad buyout proof because of the bonus structure. Because signing bonuses right now are not part of buyouts. They still have to be paid. So if you're getting a very large chunk of your money in signing bonus, then it's not going to be, like, the team's really not going to be able to buy you out. It's not going to be worth it. So that's changing to 60%. And the other thing too is that we know technically players are paid their salaries in the regular season. They technically don't get paid for the playoffs, but there is a playoff bonus pool where they can earn money for playing in the playoffs. And the playoff bonus pool is expected to raise significantly. So there is that. So we should hopefully get more and kind of complete, confirmed details as early as tomorrow. I don't know exactly, but right now the NHL and the NHLPA are working hard to try to close any last little pieces that they have to agree on, and they're hoping to be able to sign a memorandum of understanding and announce this around the draft. So we'll see what happens. As I mentioned, we have another buyout today. The San Jose Sharks are buying out longtime veteran and 38-year-old defenseman Marc-Edouard Vlasic. He's got 1 year left on his contract with a $7 million average annual value. This buyout would reduce the contract rate down to $4.6 million, which would save them $2.33 million for the upcoming season. And it adds an extra year because it's 2/3 buyout times twice the remaining time. So the extra year added on is $1.16 million. So obviously this moves on from him. He's been there a long time. Last year didn't play as much. At one point he was kind of considered one of the game's top defensive defensemen. Had a little bit of time at Team Canada, but you could tell the last number of years his game has fallen off, and he's been a rumored buyout for a few years. It was just always such a big commitment on how long it was going to be effective on their salary caps. That now we're near the end, and here we are. We also learned today that the Anaheim Ducks are expected to hire Jay Woodcroft, former Oilers bench boss, will be joining Joel Quenneville as an assistant coach. So nice to see him getting back to work in the NHL after going through several head coaching interviews. We also have a bunch of trades, and of course one of them came really late last night. In case you missed it, these are all dedicated videos on the channel already, but the Sabres, in my opinion, get completely fleeced by the Utah Mammoth, trading JJ Peterka to Utah for, I almost said Shane Doan, but Josh Doan and Michael Kesselring. I like both those players. I just don't think it's anywhere nearly enough for an emerging star player. Now, Peterka was a restricted free agent, and then he, shortly after the trade, signed a new contract with Utah, a 5-year deal with a $7.7 million average annual value. To me, he's worth every penny. I think he's going to be a consistent 30 to 40 goal guy. You throw him and Dylan Gunter and Cooley and Keller and all these top young talented forwards, and they are going to be in really good shape for a long time to come. A few other trades here that happened today as well. The Minnesota Wild traded centerman Freddie Gaudreau to the Seattle Kraken for a 4th-round pick, and the Blue Jackets were involved in a couple of smaller deals. One, sending backup goaltender Daniil Tarasov to the Panthers for a 5th-rounder, so that tells us Florida won't be re-signing goalie Vitek Vanacek. He'll hit the free agent market. Tarasov will become their backup. And apparently as well, I learned that Daniil Tarasov's dad, who was also a goalie back in Russia, was like the idol growing up for Sergei Bobrovsky. So there is a little bit of a, I guess you could say, a team family connection there. And the Blue Jackets also traded Cameron Butler to Minnesota for centerman Brendan Gaunce. So a couple of small deals involving Columbus and here Minnesota. today. A couple of signing news, the biggest one being the Dallas Stars have re-signed captain Jamie Benn to a very team-friendly deal. Of course, coming off a big contract where he's made tons of money. Jamie Benn signs a 1-year deal with a $1 million salary. And because he's now over the age of 35, you can do a bonus-structured 1-year deal like we've seen some of the other older vets do. This also has a $3 million bonus structure in it, all around games played and making the playoffs. So it's up to $3 million total. There's, I think, 4 games played bonuses in there, $500K a piece. And then there's 2 playoff bonuses. One, I believe, is for winning a round, at least making the conference final, and one for winning the Stanley Cup. So obviously, he's likely going to earn at least a couple million, most likely, as long as he stays healthy and plays. The good news is this gives him more flexibility so that the bonuses, if need be, can count on next year's salary cap and gives him more flexibility during the current year. I suspect it's going to be a similar type of thing if Ottawa can come to terms with Claude Giroux. And of course, we saw the Jonathan Toews contract kind of throw things for a loop considering the bonuses there. That one really surprised me because he can earn up to $7 million. And I wonder if that's having an impact on Giroux's deal because, looking at Jamie Benn, though, Jamie Benn and Claude Giroux are pretty much on the exact same path. They both are great players, but they're both getting a little older and declining a bit. And if you look at their point totals and how they've come down the last 3 years, it's almost identical. So I think this is a really good comparable contract for Ottawa and G. So hopefully they can use that as a template to kind of move forward here. Carolina also signed Juha Jaska as well, a 1-year 2-way deal. League minimum at the NHL, $250 at the American League, and $425,000 total guaranteed. Some UFA rumors heading into the draft here. Of course, these guys won't be finding new homes until July 1st or beyond, but the latest speculation, Nikolai Ehlers did confirm to the Winnipeg Jets that he will be testing free agency, so he will not be signing with the Jets ahead of July 1st. Doesn't mean he will not go back. I believe, based on what we've heard, that he still is willing to consider the Jets, but he wants to see what else is out there before he makes his decision. Oftentimes those situations don't end well, and the player more often does leave, but sometimes they get out there, they see what's available, they don't like it as much as their current situation, and they return. So we'll see. With the Panthers, it's still leaning like Bennett and Marchand probably stay, and Ekblad most likely goes. I know Darren Traeger was reporting earlier that, and Chris Johnson actually as well, both reporting that Ekblad is trending towards likely leaving, but again, no guarantees. Things can change in a heartbeat, and the intel can change quite quickly there. Mitch Marner, of course, we heard from Brad Treliving, the GM of the Leafs today. He confirmed that Mitch Marner is not expected to re-sign with Toronto, and he will be hitting the market on July the 1st. Elliot Friedman made mention, of another team. I mean, a lot of people are expecting the Golden Knights to land a star player, but he wonders about the Dallas Stars. Could Marner end up in Dallas? Now, if you might look at Dallas's cap situation and go like, well, how in the heck would they do that? And it would be creative, but we know that based on what Elliot's saying, that essentially we already know they're considering a Jason Robertson trade. That would obviously move things along. That if they were going to be able to sign Marner, if they thought they could land him, that a Robertson trade would definitely have to happen. Then you'd have Marner and Rantanen. That would be the new Dallas Stars pickups here in recent months. That would be insane. They might have to clear up more money than that even, but ultimately there is a path for them to do it. And the belief is that, like what Elliot said, was if they thought they could get him, that they would be willing to clear the space. But again, we know they're exploring a Robertson trade. They're also exploring a Robertson contract extension and trying to determine next steps in that front. But it's interesting that Dallas now potentially linked to Marner through Elliot's latest reports there. Now, the big trade rumor that's going wild here on social media shortly before I record this, and I hope nothing changes before this hits YouTube, but there's a lot of belief that the Montreal Canadiens and the New York Islanders are having some trade talks around Noah Dobson, and that those talks might even be what you'd call advanced. Now, I don't think we have anything imminent as of yet, but then again, by the time I finish recording this and check social media, maybe things will be different here, but there's a lot of belief that the Islanders are leaning towards trading Dobson, and that Montreal appears to be like one of the teams in advanced conversations. There's also belief that the Flyers, the Sharks, and the Blues also are poking around Dobson, are not completely out of the mix here. We know that, just to go back to other teams for a second, we'll talk further about what the rumored deal is with the Islanders and the Canadiens. But Utah, we know that they made a big deal for J.J. Peterka. They still have that 4th overall pick, and we know the Islanders want to get James Haggins. So I do wonder, could be something that we see, and Utah is looking for a top right-hand defenseman as well. So there's a lot that makes sense about that for both sides. St. Louis have had Jordan Kyrou's name out there. He has a no trade that kicks in July 1. It's not a given that he gets traded, but they're certainly exploring it pretty hard to see what they can get in return. The belief is that they're going to go after a guy like Dobson, and it probably would be Kyrou that would be offered. So we'll have to see where things go on that front. San Jose and Philadelphia, I don't know what the offer would be. I know the Flyers obviously are picking pretty high at number 6. So, I mean, maybe that pick would be likely something that would be requested by the Islanders. I don't know how they'd feel about it. The Sharks, on the other hand, I can't see them offering the number 2 pick, but there could be lots of other assets because they have a lot of good prospects. Don't know exactly what that would look like. Now, when it comes to Jean-Gabriel Pageau, there is some belief that he could be in this Montreal Islander trade too, but he's also a player getting a lot of interest from a few other teams, including the Minnesota Wild. So if Pageau does not end up in any kind of trade with Dobson, look for Minnesota to possibly be a landing spot there. But the belief around Montreal and the Islanders is that it's a package involving most likely at least one, if not both, Montreal's first rounders. We know they have the back-to-back first round picks there at 16-17. And Logan Mailloux is apparently a right-hand defenseman, of course, who's appears to be pretty darn close, if not really there to be NHL ready. The other piece here, and there's something I think even maybe another prospect like Joshua Waugh might be in there too. I've seen some questions about Kirby Dach. I don't know that he would be included here, but maybe. I mean, I know that it's funny, Montreal actually gave an update on him today because Jeff Gorton did speak to the media, and he said that Dach's looked pretty good and appears to be ahead of schedule on his recovery after missing a large chunk of last season. So not quite clear if it would be 2 first-rounders in Mailloux or Waugh for Dobson, or if somehow Pageau's in that deal as well. I've seen other people saying maybe it's more like a Reinbacher and Michael Hage in one of those first-rounders. I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of this is kind of depending on what people would prefer to see the Islanders get, to be honest. It does feel like it's more likely now than ever that a Dobson trade seems reasonable, but Marco D'Amico also is reporting that he's heard that Dobson would prefer to go to Montreal. So that's interesting, to say the least. So I'm not sure how this is all going to play out, but it sure seems like there's a big possibility here that Ken Hughes, Jeff Gorton, and the Montreal Canadiens are once again looking to make a big splash, and it could be around this top young right-hand defenseman, of course, from good old PEI, not far from my neck of the woods here in New Brunswick. So Dobson's a great young D looking for a big paycheck. And is Montreal going to be the team to give it to him? Be interesting to see how this plays out. So some other things. I know I mentioned Minnesota having interest in Jean-Gabriel Pageau. They are also reportedly having some interest in Charlie Coyle. They traded Freddie Gaudreau earlier today, so it does seem reasonable that they may try to pick up another center through another trade here. So I do wonder if one of those 2 veteran guys might be targeted. When it comes to Vancouver, there's some talk from Darren Dreger that he thinks that Demko is probably going to stay now, that negotiations are far enough along for an extension that it seems reasonable that a multi-year deal is going to get worked out. Obviously, if things hit a snag, things can always change, but right now, Demko is trending in the direction of staying, and if that does indeed happen, Arthur Shelovs, the younger netminder, who just won a Calder Cup with Abbotsford, most likely would be made available, and could be a nice young goalie for other teams to pick up. I know Columbus, speaking of goalies, moved Tarasov earlier, as I mentioned. They are expected to move Elvis Berzlikkin sometime this offseason if they're able to. And there is some belief they might be one of the teams inquiring on John Gibson out of Anaheim. So another team to watch. Don Waddell has been very busy. He's got multiple first-rounders and is definitely trying to make this team better. So we'll see what happens. A quick update on Vegas. Elliot Friedman is now reporting that he doesn't think that Vegas is going to trade William Karlsson or Tomas Hertl. There was a big rumor around Hertl here this week, but it never ended up happening. And now he doesn't think it's going to happen. But I did see reports from Nick Kiprio saying if Vegas does look to make a cost-cutting move, that it could also be a player like Nikolai Waugh. And Waugh makes a lot of sense as well. I think they're going to probably be kind of in wait-and-see mode here and see what the odds are of them landing the big fish in free agency with Mitch Marner. Now, of course, Buffalo still very much getting a ton of interest on Bo Byram. Byram has got at least 8 teams after him, according to all the different reports from NHL insiders. All kinds of interest. He could end up in a variety of different places. I think it's fair to say that the Sabres, I hope for Kevin Adams and the Buffalo Sabres' sake that they get a better return than J.J. Peterka. If I'm any team around the NHL after I've seen that Peterka trade, I'm picking up the phone and trying to get a good player out of Buffalo, because apparently good returns is not something that they insist on. The Toronto Maple Leafs, as I mentioned as well, after this Peterka trade and seeing basically how much the Sabres really valued Michael Kesselring. And to be honest, I know I give Kevin Adams and the Sabres a hard time for this trade, but Kesselring is a good size right defenseman who can probably over time here increase his role. It just goes to show you how much of a premium GMs are paying for these types of right shot D. And that might be part of the reason why they didn't get more, is because of the value on the defenseman here. Josh Stone's a nice prospect, but it's hard to say how good he'll end up being in the NHL if he'll be anywhere near the level of his father. But, that's why the Maple Leafs are getting calls and inquiries on Brandon Carlo. And when you see returns like this, it makes you think that, they might not have a choice but to consider it. If they lose Mitch Marner, which is likely, and they lose John Tavares, which at this point also seems 50-50, they're going to need some offense. And if they're going to need some offense and have to do it through the trade market, they're going to have to move something of value. And a guy like Carlo, who's also a big right-hand defenseman, might have enough value that you might be able to pull off something substantial. So as much as the Leafs, I don't think we're planning on looking at this, they've gotten enough interest that they kind of have to at this point. Doesn't mean it's going to materialize in anything, but it is something that's kind of on the radar that they may have no choice but to do. So we'll see what happens. It should be a very interesting couple of days here. Of course, we get the rest of today and then tomorrow leading into the draft Friday evening. I think we're going to see lots of activity. There's a lot of speculation that a lot of the trades and a lot of the player movement could continue on even for quite some time past July 1, that the first couple of weeks of July could be a very active period. So stay tuned. This will be the place to get all your news and rumor updates around the entire league. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.